Hey, it's Mark Lanier with your video thought for the day. So I was reading the story of Joshua and the Battle of Jericho. And it's one everybody knows at least something of, but many people who've been in church or synagogue most of their lives know a good bit of it. It's the first big city that Israel conquers when they go into the Promised Land. And it's a walled town. The walls are steep. And the story of the actual conquest in Joshua chapter 6 starts out with a kind of a key verse that unlocks it. It says, Jericho was shut up inside and outside because of the people of Israel. Side note, if I'd been in Jericho, I'd like to think that I would not have shut the gates. I would have said, hey, you want it, you got it. And I'd have said, if we can't serve you, we'll go somewhere else. But, that's Monday morning quarterbacking. Anyway, none went out. None went in, the passage says. And the Lord said to Joshua, look, I have given you Jericho into your hand with its king and all of its brave soldiers. Now, I like this because it speaks to me, but let me make sure we got the backstory right. And it's fascinating that what God tells Joshua to do is to pick out 7 priests, give them each a shofar, a horn, have the 7 priests followed by the ark march around the city one time for 6 successive days. Now, in front of the priests with the horns were a troop of the military soldiers. And behind the ark that trailed the priests with the horns were a rear guard of soldiers. And they would just go out, and Joshua was told, everybody's quiet except the blowing of the horns. They go around the city, make a circuit. Then they quit, go back to camp. That had to freak the people of Jericho out. It happens 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, 6 days. But the 7th day, just when maybe it was becoming old hat to the people inside Jericho, God says, march around the city 7 times. And then Joshua has a prearranged signal where he yells to the people, shout. The people all shout. The wall comes tumbling down and Jericho is conquered. What I like in those first verses, however, if I go back to them, Jericho's shut up inside and outside. This means in the Hebrew, it's written with participles and structures that make it real emphatic. Nobody. It's shut tight as a drum. I like this because this isn't just a children's story. It's not simply a narrative of history. It's included in the Bible to teach us important lessons. There are times in our life where we are confronted with a walled problem that is shut tighter than a drum. I mean, it is an obstacle in our life. It is a difficulty we see no way around, and there doesn't seem to be a human way around. And yet, if God desires for that obstacle to come tumbling down, all we need to do is walk in his will. Because if God gives it over, it will be given over. So as I look at my life today, there are obstacles, there are walls that need to come down. And I can trust, it may not be day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, but I walk as God wants me to walk. I do as God wants me to do. And in God's timing, those walls will come down. Those obstacles will be defeated. And I can have God's victory in my life. I think it applies to me, but I think it applies to you. And that's why I've made this your video thought for today.